Certainly anyone in Eastern Canada is very familiar with Andreas Gada, one of the most recognizable names of astronomy in Eastern Canada, well known across Canada. From its beginnings back in 1980, the North York Astronomical Association has built an enviable reputation throughout Canada, and I think it's fair to say that everybody recognizes that its yearly Star Party Convention, Starfest, is the most successful and the largest assembly of astronomers, amateur astronomers in Canada. So Andreas Gada, who's also an unattached member of the RASC, is here to tell us about the NYAA, or the NYAA as we sometimes call it, what it is and who they are. Andreas?
Thank you, Michael. What I'd like to do in the next half hour or so, is to tell you and give you a little bit of insight into the North York Astronomical Association, who we are, what we do, and just share that with you. So we'll just go into it. First of all, the NYAA is a very small, informal, observing-oriented group. We have approximately 65 members, and we're situated in Toronto and the surrounding areas. We were founded in August of 1980. At that time, myself and about 10 other of my friends wanted to go and observe the Perseids from a dark sky site, and we decided to go to a provincial park and get into the group camping area. So to get into the group camping area, you have to be a group. At the time, I was living in North York, and hence the name North York Astronomical Association. We enjoyed it so much that we continued again in September. October was a little bit too cold, so we carried on next spring, and here we are today. 1992 was a very traumatic year for our club. We incorporated. And along with incorporation comes all this sort of gnashing of teeth and pulling of hair. A lot of discussion went on in our group as to how it's going to change us. We lose our informality. That was very important to us. And so the question that we had to address within our group is, how do we maintain our informality? And also, what do we do to convince our membership that yes, that incorporation was a good idea? And so one of the things that we did to help us with that, and also to help focus our efforts as a club, was to develop a vision statement for the club. Now, I'd like to just sort of talk a little bit about vision statements in general, and then sort of talk more specifically about our vision statement and the specific goals that we set out for ourselves. First of all, the purpose of a vision statement is to very clearly define the organization and what the organization wishes to accomplish. It's based on the values of the club and its strengths. One of our values is informality. That's important to us. It's something that we do not wish to lose. One of the other strengths of our club, I guess, is that we're very project-oriented. We decide on something and we go for it. So this all winds up being part of our vision statement. And the vision statement basically does two things for us. One, it forms the basis for doing long-range planning. Where do we want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, so that we can basically look back and say, yeah, we did that, or, well, I guess we didn't achieve this particular goal, but at least it gives us a point, a target to aim for. And then the last thing is that it helps in our day-to-day decision-making. And it allows us to react very quickly to opportunities that are presented to the club. And I'll give you an example of that later on in the presentation. Now, if we look at a vision statement, there are several components to it. First of all, there's the actual high-level vision statement, which is usually one big long sentence, two at most. And then that is supported by some goals. And then you've got activities that support those goals and drive towards the vision statement. The key thing is, it is a living document. It changes. And as your club evolves, you go back, you review it, you change it. And we actually do that annually at our annual meeting. What we basically do, vision statements put up on the overhead, we go through all the points, and then we look at what have we done that year to drive the activities of the club towards achieving our goal. Now, some of you may be uncomfortable with this. Another way to think of it is like doing experiment or scientific research where you have the purpose, the objectives, your method, no different terminology. It's applied in a business context. And when we look at our membership base, a lot of our members come from a business background. Either, and some of them fairly high-level management backgrounds, others lower, but basically what we're looking at is that is the mindset of what people have been exposed to for years and years in their work environment, so it made sense for us to adopt this approach in our environment. Okay, so here's the vision statement that we came up with, and let me read it to you, and then let me try and expound on it or elaborate on it. To be Canada's premier astronomy club in all key activities undertaken by the club as judged by our peers in the amateur astronomical community. I know when I read that, and I look at it the first time, I say, boy, those guys are pretty self-centered, aren't they? But I think you need to look at that first part of that sentence very carefully. And what we're really trying to say here is we are trying to be the best we can be. It's like the board, striving for perfection. So we don't try and assimilate. The other part, the second part, is that in key activities, we don't try and do everything. We can't. So we focus in on some very specific things which are important to us, and we do those as best we can. And finally, the third item, as judged by our peers in the amateur astronomical community, it's not us making the decision that we've achieved our goal, it's the astronomical community that makes that decision. And again, I'll give you an example of that as we go through the presentation. So that's the high-level, one-sentence vision statement. Then we have a number of supporting goals. First goal is basically to organize and conduct high-quality activities that satisfy the astronomical needs of our members and enhance their enjoyment of astronomy. First and foremost, that's why our club exists, to help the members in the club get the most out of the hobby. Supporting that, we have a number of activities, monthly show-and-tell type meetings held near full moon. Okay, we are an astronomy club of observers. The worst thing you can do to an observer is to hold a meeting at new moon. So what we typically do now is we hold our meetings the week of full moon. Used to be we held it on the night of full moon, but that had some difficulties. We have monthly dark sky observing weekends, again once a month. We have organized trips, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then within the club itself, we have some special interest groups like astrophotography, CCD imaging, telescope making, and so on and so forth. So we have a broad range of activities covered. In terms of organized trips, just to illustrate, we organized a trip to the Star Island back in 1996. This is a trip that our club actually organized by itself. We've also done trips to Barbados for Halley's Comet and other locations. And then I guess 1998, a bunch of us joined the Calgary group in Curacao. Okay, our next goal is, again, basically to conduct club business in a professional and courteous manner, yet maintain an informal atmosphere. Okay? And if we look at that, we make use of our vision statement. We're supporting goals as the basis for decision making. They are reviewed and report on them. The other thing is, as I said, 1992 was traumatic in the sense of we had to come up with bylaws. Ooh. And that was an interesting experience. And we did make contact with Bob Steichman, who was an attendee at Starfest one year, invited him into the discussion because we didn't know what to do with respect to bylaws and incorporation, and he set us straight. And we actually took a template from the Sudbury Astronomy Club, looked at that, felt it was reasonable. Bob looked it over, he thought it was reasonable too. And then we went nuts on it, in the sense that we had a little fun. For example, our membership year starts in April Fools. Dues are due and payable by the summer solstice. And if you haven't paid by the midnight culmination of Sirius, you're out of the club. As an example. Legally, you have to have a stated distance within which you, as a club, could hold meetings. Well, this presented an interesting quandary. Say we were at Riverside, and we saw this telescope that we absolutely had to get. Well, could we make a decision? Well, you have enough of the directors there, I guess you could. Well, okay, what units of measure can we specify? As long as it's a recognized unit of measure, how about a parsec? Fine, done, it's in. So we have to hold meetings within a parsec of Toronto. Okay, so that should handle us to a star party on the moon. I'm looking forward to the first star party on the moon. So that's the informality. We went through the business of putting the bylaws together, but the advice that we were given is put those bylaws in the bottom right-hand drawer, forget about them, and get on with the business of the club, which is to do astronomy. Maintain a world-class astronomy conference. In 1982, we held our first Starfest. For that particular year, we had, I was corrected, 22 people. Bob corrected me. I always thought we had 25, but Bob may correct me. We had 22 people at Starfest with a fair bit of arm twisting to get 22 people there. Today, it's the largest annual observing conference in Canada. Over 900 people, and this year we're on track to that number. And we've been ranked by Sky Telescope among the top 7 star parties in North America. Now this goes back to our vision statement. We didn't make the determination. Sky Telescope, basically, in that one article, ranked us up in there among the top 7. So that's where the peer review comes in. This year's Starfest is July 15th to 18th, 1999 at the River Place Campground. And we basically have nightly observing sessions, formal and informal slide presentations. We do workshops. We do have commercial exhibits, a children's program, and all sorts of activities for both the experienced and the novice alike. Again, this has been a slight shift in our astronomy conference, in that when we started out, we only had experienced people attend. Now we have a real mix of people, and our program has been changed accordingly. So here's just an aerial view of the campsite. Registration tent, where if you've ever been, you'll see Bonnie smiling behind the registration table. Just a general view of the main tent in which we have our talks, camping area behind it, then the area on either side of it. Kid Fest is a program that we have for children. And here's one of the crafts that they did last year, which was basically building a globular cluster. So isn't that kind of fun when you like to build a globular cluster? One of our frequent speakers is David Levy, and as well, Terry. And of course, the main event is the night sky. So here we have people basically getting the telescope set up and just waiting for those clouds to disappear, which most often they do. You're getting ready for it. Some of the other goals that we have is is to establish and maintain a research quality observing facility. We're still working on that goal. But we have been working towards it. We started in 1984 by building an observatory in Schaumburg, Ontario, called Augsburg. And since then we've added to it. We now have an 8x8 flip-roof observatory with 12-inch Newtonian, a 12-foot dome with a 16-inch Thomsonian and a warm-up hut. And here's what that all looks like. So basically, warm-up hut down here, 12-foot dome, flip-roof, and then Rick Kelch's actual 14-foot dome. And just some close-ups of the 16-inch and the 12. And our plan for this fall is to rebuild this particular building. It's been around since 1984. The ants have done a wonderful job on the roof. It's now sawdust being held together by ant spit, and it's time. Okay, we also, in 1985, when Bonnie and I bought property out in Oak Heights, we established a dark sky observing site out in Oak Heights. It's located approximately 16 kilometers northeast of Coburg. And then I guess end of 96, end of 97, we were approached by Heinz Lorenz with a very generous donation. He gave us an 8-foot ash dome with a 12-inch Casimir telescope and generous funding to basically build an observatory. And here's just a general view of Oak Heights, showing the cabin, the work shed, very important outhouse, the Lorenz Observatory. The bunkhouse is off to this side, and there's also 2 other observatories that you don't see over there. And here's what it looks like. Okay, one of our other goals is to establish and maintain a facility that can be used by members for all aspects of telescope making. And over the years, we have accumulated items to help us achieve that goal. One of the things we do is we do have a special interest group that meets usually prior to our regular meetings for about half an hour to talk about telescope making. We've purchased a large optical flat and interferometer for testing optics, so we can get a very precise measurement of what the accuracy is. Just recently we bought a LaserMax collimator, which is a real godsend if you ever need to align your optics. Use it once or twice and it's a real snap. And then the other thing that we do have is we have a number of basement workshops. This isn't my basement, but there's these 2 other members who have similar arrangements. And this is courtesy of the Etobicoke Board of Education. We're shutting down the machine shop in which I was attending classes, and we approached them about buying the equipment. So we had the great machine shop caper where we bought 5 lathes, 3 mills, and all sorts of other accessories which wound up in our members' basements. And although we don't have like a central facility that membership in general can use, we do have enough equipment scattered around so that if there is something, then it's available. Now, all this activity has basically led to innovations in astronomy, and a number of people from our club have been involved. The first person that you may recognize is Paul Smith, who unfortunately is deceased now, but he developed, or at least promoted, quick focus. Jim Kendricks, we all know about the Dewey Rule system and his observing tent. Bob Samus, one of our members, is working on a large format CCD autodider and camera. Charles Sosowski, very enthusiastic, very boisterous individual, basically developed software for digital sky voice. And he's now come up with the complement digital sky imaging. One of our newer members, Mark Castell, He's basically a technical innovator. I guess what he's basically done by taking off-the-shelf components, he's built a robotic observatory. So you can dial into it from here, and it can control, do imaging, and do all that sort of stuff at night. And then last, Kathy McWaters, who has innovated in a different sense, in that she's been using a portable planetarium to do education in astronomy in the Toronto area and surrounding area. The next goal that we have is to establish and maintain a facility that can be used by members for image processing, both traditional and CCD. And to support that activity, again, we've done a number of things in our club. One is we have a CCD special interest group that meets around 3-4 times a year at various members' homes. We purchased a 5-inch astrophysics refractor, which is available for use by the membership to do astrophotography, CCD imaging, whatever. We also have an SD4 autoguider, and of course, the dark sky observing site. Here's just a shot of the SD4, the way it sort of comes, and the refractor. Now, one of the things that results when you have people who are active in astrophotography is you're inevitably going to wind up with photographs in print. So here's just a sample of some of the things that you may have seen that was done by our members. The solar eclipse from Curacao, taken with the 5-inch refractor. This particular image, which is a composite of 11 images, again taken from Curacao and then composited. Hale Bob, taken from the River Place. I should maybe tune down those lights. Oops. How's that? Better? Okay. Okay. Bob Sanders went down to Australia, came back with these. Doug Clapp, really into CCD imaging quite extensively, and he's got some very good images. Steve Barnes, some wonderful aurora images. Okay, one of the other things that is important to us is to establish and maintain effective communications with our members. And in the initial years, what we used to do is phone people. And that towards, if we had a meeting coming up or something, you get a call at least once a month. And that used to take anywhere from about 3 to 5 days to get through to everyone, which was kind of hard on the people doing the calling. So we've got a number of different things that we do. First of all, we have AstroTenter quarterly newsletter. We have a website containing information about our club. We have a members list, email list that we use for distributing meeting information. And then we also have a general chat list that we use where people can go on and sort of chat back and forth. And those lists get to about 2/3 of our members, which is very good. So you basically post a note and it gets out the same day. And it certainly cuts down on a lot of phoning that has to be done. So here's an example of our newsletter. And here's our web page. And again, if you just sort of look through that, you can very easily see we've got everything covered about the club. Where's North York? Membership information. Okay. Okay, and then the last area that we have, and this is a recent goal that we've added to our vision statement is to encourage and support the collaboration between amateur and professional astronomers. We have a number of people, and to do that, last year what we did is we announced the Starfist Bring Home the Bacon Award. Okay? We decided to have a Canadian award. Okay? And it's basically awarded to a Canadian amateur who makes an astronomical discovery. We don't care what it is, whether it's a comet, an asteroid, doesn't matter. It's a $500 cash prize or a loony cash prize, or 250 toonies if you prefer those. A pound of Canadian back bacon, and a toque. Okay, and if we look at in our club, we have a number of people. Ray Thompson, who does variable star observing, has done over 15,000 observations. He is a RAC Ketchum and Chat medal winner, and he has numerous published papers. So here we have Ray in his observatory with some of his results. Bob Sandus is an asteroid hunter. His observatory is registered with the IAU. It's a numbered observatory. He's been credited with 8 asteroid finds, and he is the first recipient of the Starfist Bring Home the Bacon Award, which we will be bestowing at this year's Starfest, and then we're going to carry on doing that. So there's still lots of opportunities for others to win the award. And here's Bob with the discovery images of one of his asteroids. John Hicks is an experienced solar photographer. I went a little too fast there. And lots of work in hydrogen alpha, photographing things. Kathy Hall, avid meteor observer. She belongs to a number of different organizations that deal with meteor observations. And then, of course, Walter, the punster. Hi, Walter. Hello. And he's made a number of observations with the AAVSO as well. And that's it. That's my presentation. Anyway, so I guess in closing, again, what we've basically done is we set a bunch of goals, vision statement, we set a bunch of goals, and then we basically drive the activities to make those goals, to meet those goals. Thank you.